Hi, I'd like to talk to you for a few moments about how the church has lost the wisdom of a generation. As Christians, we follow the teachings of the New Testament. We are under the law of Christ, yet we still study the Old Testament writings because, as Romans 15 verse 4 tells us, we are to learn from it. We know that all the Ten Commandments God gave to the Israelites through Moses are restated or reasserted in the New Testament. Save for one, thou shalt keep the Sabbath day holy. However, even though we are not directed in the New Testament to keep the Sabbath day holy, we are directed to come together as a body, as the church, every Sunday to fellowship, to worship God, and to commemorate Christ's death, his burial, and resurrection by partaking of the Lord's Supper. For many decades, and for several generations, we as the Lord's church have done this twice on Sunday, at least the gathering worship portion, and we make the Lord's Supper available for those who could not partake of it in the morning. Now, depending on who you talk to, you'll get a couple of reasons why we do this and when it started. Some will tell you it started back during the Industrial Revolution, which also included farmers who would be up and working before dawn and often work till sundown, which means they couldn't always get to services for the morning worship, while others believe 2 Sunday worship periods were the result of World War II and the men and women who worked in the factories to turn out the war equipment 24/7. Those who worked in the morning shift wouldn't have the opportunity to worship, so churches added a second worship to accommodate them. Whichever the case may be, after the war, when a degree of normalcy was achieved, churches continued to hold 2 services every Sunday, one in the morning and one in the evening. The question I would like to ask, though, is why? Why wouldn't they just go back to 1 service on Sundays? Well, I'm sure there were still those folks in the workforce who worked those morning shifts and needed that evening worship time. But I prefer to think the biggest reason why congregations far and wide continued to the 2 assembly Sundays was because those congregations' leadership, be it the elders or the men of a congregation, depending on the situation, they recognized the importance of 2 worship services to the individual Christian. The congregation leadership recognized the need the church has to be edified and strengthened as they go into the week. I believe that is why our midweek or Wednesday night Bible studies began as well, not only for the learning, but for the edification and strengthening of the congregation. The elders of that day and time recognized the value of coming together as the church. My grandfather was an elder in the church for many years, certainly for all of my lifetime, while he was alive. I believe my parents adhered very much to his guidance as an elder in all that we did. I grew up in a strong Christian home where we were not allowed to miss any opportunity to gather with the church, be it Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Wednesday night Bible study, youth events, fellowships, area-wide fellowships, or any other event that involved doing things with at least one other family from the congregation. There was no missing worship services or Bible study for baseball, recitals, or any sport. There was no missing for school activities or homework. There was no missing for any recreational activities at all. As a child, I rebelled against that strictness. I was a growing boy, a teenager. I wanted to be involved in the things my friends and classmates did, and I didn't want to be ostracized by them for not participating. And there most definitely was not missing any church worship or Wednesday night Bible studies when we were on vacation. But you see, my parents, like many other Christian parents and adults, saw the wisdom instilled in them by an older generation of Christians who saw the value in coming together as a group of like-minded individuals, as a group of Christians, to be involved in activities that strengthen their spiritual being, that enabled them to create bonds of friendships with fellow Christians, so that we knew when someone was struggling. We knew when someone had a problem. We knew when someone was sick, and that knowledge helped us to be better brothers and sisters to our Christian family. Now contrast those attitudes with the attitudes of today. Many Christians today complain about having to attend worship and Bible study. I've often heard folks say aloud they don't think we need to have 2 worship services on Sundays or a midweek Bible study, as though it is such a great inconvenience. Folks, if a Christian thinks such things, their heart is not in the right place, and they need more, not less, association with other Christians throughout the week. When our pews were full, when we had gospel meetings that lasted 2 weeks long, when we didn't concern ourselves with worry over having too many children at Vacation Bible School, when we had those things, the Lord's church was strong in our communities and in our nation. I can't remember the last time I heard about a gospel meeting anywhere in my area. It's been several decades since I experienced a congregation having to get out folding chairs for overflow seating. I'm reminded of other aspects of wisdom from that generation that has been lost. Things like dancing and drinking alcohol and going to bars. All things which were expressly forbidden to many Christian homes. Certainly was in mine. Not because there's anything inherently wrong or sinful in those acts, which as a teenager I argued constantly about with my parents and grandparents, but because the wisdom of that generation of great church leadership, like my grandfather, understood the dangers. Some dancing can lead to sinful thoughts, or worse, so better to simply avoid it altogether. Not everyone can drink alcohol in moderation, or avoid getting drunk, so better to simply not drink at all. To that generation, appearance for a Christian was important. Not appearance as in the show you put on, or the show others to show others being different from what you do in your private life, but appearance as in you show others that Christ should be living in you. We were taught to abstain from worldly things in order to guard ourselves against sin, to guard ourselves against the influences of the world on the church, and to show the world that the church as a whole and Christians individually were set apart and different, that Christ lived in us. You see, the wisdom of those generations has seemingly been lost on us today. We let the things of the world creep in and take a hold, and then we get to a point where it is the norm, and it affects our attitude. It affects our attendance, and before long it affects our attendance at worship and our absence from worship. And that absence from worship becomes more frequent until one day we just stop going altogether, or we let the things of the world creep in and influence us in sin. One sin leads to another until eventually our hearts are hardened and the sinful lifestyle becomes the norm. Now, I'm not under any illusion that these things are the sole reason for the diminishing numbers in our pews each Sunday, but I do believe they are a huge reason. Living a life for God is not always an easy thing, but it's not that hard either. It would behoove us all to heed the advice of those generations of church leadership who have gone on to their reward. You just have to take control and do it.